Brandon looks like a villain right now. His hair is
I know.
thick in a ponytail. He's got a beard and he's petting a cat. What an episode. What an episode this has become.
This week, we sip on some of Brandon's homebrew as well as New Holland's Dragon Milk Solera. This is episode 66 of The Malting Hour.
What's the haps on the hops? Got yeast, that's beast. This the Malting Hour where we talk about our drink and tell you what we think every other week. And if we get drunk, well, we might slur our speech. Got the gift of gab, the friends you wish you had. Join us for a drink, join us for a laugh. Time is never wasted, where you getting wasted. The Malting Hour here, people take your places. People take your places. People take your home.
Welcome to the Malting Hour. I am one of your hosts, Tony Golick, joined always with
Brandon Winninger.
And off being the hockey dad that he is, Clark Fettridge is not joining us tonight. Sorry, Clark, you're not joining us for a very nonchalant, very relaxed, very just two dudes, kind of going back to maybe the first episode. Do you remember the first episode we recorded? Episode 0 is what it is.
Well, we just sat around drinking and talking about what we're drinking and life and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Random shit. I mean, that's pretty much what the show is. But we haven't done that in a while. Just kind of sat around and talked. I mean, we've got some stuff we're going to talk about. I mean, there's specific beers we're drinking, but there's no real. You even titled the meeting because we're doing Zoom. We're doing different places in our own home studios, aka our basements. And you are in the Malting Hour studios, which is your basement. I'm just in my basement, which is, I would call this the Malting Hour Studios West.
It's like our annex studio.
Yeah, just in case. I think only 3 or 4 episodes have been recorded here,
unless we buy that house in Idaho and we move to Idaho, and
then we actually have our own private Idaho. We're shooting the shit, is what you. We're shooting the shit. That's what you called the Zoom meeting. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna drink a beer that you made. We're going to venture. You gave me a bunch of beers today. I mean, some of those beers most of those beers are actually saved for a future episode. Hopefully the next episode. Ooh. We'll talk about that later. But you also gave me another beer, and then I've got some other random beers. I don't know what I'm going to drink, but the we're going to drink what you brewed. And Brandon, why don't we just get, we're shooting. By the way, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Things have been good. We're we're a week away from Halloween, even when this comes out, because we're recording this just before the day it's released, because that's not the day, but a couple days before.
Speaking of Halloween, are you guys still doing something for Halloween? We didn't talk about
that. Yes. I'm pretty sure my wife, that's an off mic conversation. I'm pretty sure my wife may have mentioned it to you or Becca, but I'm planning on seeing you guys on Halloween.
That's what I figured. So I was just making sure.
We're on the same page, baby.
Yeah.
That's still going. In fact, expect a text in the
so
by tomorrow.
History, Tony used to have a pretty awesome Halloween party, and then a pandemic hit, and that has been.
There's a pandemic.
Oh my God,
Jesus Christ!
But out of an abundance of caution, you're still taking some precautions, which is noble and agreeable, and so it's cool though that you just a select few people can come by and say hi.
Yeah, the whole idea for this year is just to, I'm gonna be honest. It's people that I know that are vaccinated are coming in. There's a handful of, and it's not like a party. It's a daytime type of deal with family and friends. You guys are in both categories of family and friends, which are the people who are invited to come on by. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be very nice. It's going to be a daytime thing. The Bears play at noon. We'll see what happens with that. Pretty sure they're
fire up the
grill, baby,
or the smoker.
Yeah, that's asking a lot.
We're not coming.
Shit. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how I'm feeling, because we do have a family Halloween party the day before. And that's another situation where everybody that's there is vaccinated, so we feel a bit more comfortable going. And as people who have listened to the show have known or do know that we've we've gone to great lengths to be able to still do the show. I mean, we have numerous episodes that are, simply just based on social distancing and curbside pickup and delivery and things like that, and how, businesses, whether they be breweries or local restaurants or whatever, have and people just in general have maneuvered their way to surviving this pandemic just like everybody else. So, we still do take it seriously, even though we're vaccinated. Not even though, but while being vaccinated, we still do take it seriously. And there's things that we just want to make sure that we're doing that's safe. Now, with that being said, I have also gone to a Blackhawks game this week. So you had to show proof of vaccination. I feel like I don't know how much they were really looking at the cards. I showed it to them. Said, here you go. They're like, see you later. I feel like anybody can. Clark and I wore our masks though inside, and then we got to our seats and we weren't very much on our faces.
Yeah, speaking about like the whole like vaccination. So we did a thing last weekend. Tony, you were invited to, but you had your daughter turn 21. So we did the taco trolley.
By the way, my daughter can now drink beer, but will not. She doesn't like it. In fact, she does drink beer, and I'll let you tell your story and then I'll get to that story.
Yeah.
While we're talking about what we're drinking as well. Sorry.
Yeah. So we did it had been an annual event. It was canceled last year. And we typically do it around Cinco de Mayo. And it is, and I may have talked about this on the show before, but it's the taco trolley. Pat McHugh, frequent guest, hasn't been on in a while, but will be on again soon. We very much there was literally one day, I forget what we were doing. I probably sitting around eating tacos, and somebody came up with the idea of like, hey, we should do a taco trolley. So we all said that'd be a great idea. We'd all be in. And Pat kind of spearheaded it, rented a trolley, picked out a bunch of taco joints, called them ahead, let them know we were coming, pre-ordered a bunch of stuff. So taco trolley was born. So fast forward to a pandemic, we wanted to do it again. And he was very concerned about vaccinations and people not being vaccinated or whatever. So his requirement for being on the trolley was you had to be vaccinated and you had to show a proof of a negative COVID test within the last 72 hours.
I did not know that was all a part of it. That's cool to know.
And Becca and I forgot. But a friend of ours, she has been on the show, Liz Lux. Mm-hmm. She was in the Bourbon County Blowout episode. She had her back on too. She's good times. She at her job gets a bunch of the quick tests. So we forgot, and Becca and I were like, what do we do? And she's like, oh, don't worry, we got tests over here, just take your test. So they had quick tests. Becca and I took our quick tests and we passed and we were good to go. And
that's awesome.
The taco trolley. So everybody had passed their COVID test being negative and they were all vaccinated. So we felt like 100% awesome. Better being on that trolley. So
that's that's really cool to hear, because that was actually one of my concerns. And I guess I should have realized that, mainly because not that I wouldn't think that Pat would take those precautions.
He works in healthcare, so
well, and you guys, just me, I know Pat, but I don't know Pat. You know what I mean? Like, Pat, you're closer with him than I am, obviously. But I know you guys, and I know you guys wouldn't have gone and done something that would have been, putting your family, including your son who cannot get vaccinated, in jeopardy. So that's awesome. That's really cool to hear. I'm glad to hear that the taco trolley. I was jealous, but I'm glad to hear that the taco trolley was fun. I look forward to. I keep telling Pat when he invites me to these things that yes, I am going.
Invite me to the next one.
I'm coming, baby. I'm on my way. Well, hey, let's talk about what we're drinking, because it's been a while since we've had a homebrew. I think the last time we had a homebrew on here was when we had Jackie on. We drank one of your beers and one of Jackie's beers as well. We did her Pilsner. And what did we drink of yours? Was it Shaggy Tail? Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was Shaggy Tail.
Yeah, so that was the last time we actually did a homebrew episode. And for those of you following us on social media, you will know, or you can maybe put together what this beer is, especially for this time of year. This is Brandon's Oktoberfest, which we did. I don't know if we had it on the episode last year, but I did post the shit out of it because you dropped off a growler for me, and I finished that growler that night. It was
and I poured like a quarter pour, and I finished it. So I'm going to grab some more.
Well, I'll describe the beer right now. It is nice and clear, and the cool thing about this, and I believe we talked about it before in passing with other beers that we've maybe talked about brewing and other conversations. But the way that, and I'll let Brandon maybe get a little bit more into it, but the cool thing about his Oktoberfest is that he's done something that a lot of people have been doing with homebrewing lately, maybe longer than that, but it's become more popular, I'd say, within the last 2 years. And I always get a kick out of it when I hear brewers at breweries who are like, what? Brandon used a lager yeast and fermented it at ale temperatures, which means he fermented it well above lagering temperatures, because lagering it, the word actually means cold storage.
Correct.
So when you lager a beer, it's the act of cold fermenting, and that normally takes about a month to do, and you got to clear it up, and you're raising temperatures, and you're letting, and there's a diacetyl rest and slowly increasing the temperature, and it's a process. It's a bit of a process. Good news is that we are now in a day and age where the yeast is very versatile, and the particular strain that Brandon used, it actually says on the packet the temperatures you can ferment it at, and you can ferment this at ale temperatures, which is normally, oh god, I mean, from what 50 to not 50, but like upper 50, upper 50s to lower 70s is some ale temperatures, but normally around 65, 62, I'd say about 62 to about 75 before you start getting to weird realms of maybe ruining your beer. It's about an ale temperature. You want it kind of warm, but not hot and not cold, because the heat and the warmth is what activates the yeast, so the yeast get going to eat the sugar, where you're then creating alcohol and a bit of CO2. That's the beauty of the yeast strain that Brandon used. And I will say this, Brandon, it tastes like an Oktoberfest. It is very good. It is very reminiscent of last year's. It is very tasty. This one, I think it might be a little bit better. It feels a little more tuned in. I know you've adjusted your recipe, and you'll talk about that in a second, but also I love that since it's been sitting, how it keeps clearing up. And that's the beauty of having homebrew just sit in a keg and just drinking it occasionally, is that when you have a beer like this, it will clear up. So I'm done rambling. Please tell us about your experience of brewing and give the name, obviously, because I haven't given it yet.
Yeah, so this one, just to go back to the yeast thing. So this one on the package, it says in Celsius, it's 9 degrees to 22 degrees. It's the optimal temperature, which is 48 to 72, roughly.
There you go.
But it says the ideal is 12 to 15. I fermented at around 68 degrees, so I'm kind of in that window. And I did that last year. And so
real quick, how'd you maintain the temperature? Do you have the thermal wrap around it yet? Or did you just keep it in
so
I like how dismissive you are about no, you fuck Jesus.
I'm lucky enough that, so if I ferment in the basement, usually in my office with the door shut, and I'm lucky enough to have a AC vent in there. So I'll turn the AC vent on, and I have a heater, a space heater that I put on in there that I can set to whatever temperature. So I'll set it to like 68 degrees. And then those two will basically regulate themselves down in the basement. And then once I feel it's at a good temperature, I'll shut the AC vent off, and I'll just kind of leave it and let it sit. And that's kind of how I do all my beers.
And that room itself is not that huge. So you basically have created, especially for homebrew, that's awesome, a room that almost becomes a fermentation chamber, which is a cool little hack for any other homebrewers that are listening.
Yeah, it's super small enough. Like literally, I have my desk and a file cabinet and a desk chair and my printer, like whatever. But it's super small.
Don't forget that printer.
Yeah. Well, it's on a separate thing. Anyways, but yeah, it's small enough to where it literally just kind of it stays the temperature pretty regularly. And I have a thermometer that I keep in there. Happens to be the thermometer that's actually used for my fireplace. So when I ferment, I just move that in there, and I leave that in there, and it's pretty good at like telling accurate temperatures when I leave it like right next to it. And then I kind of regulate if I need to, but I usually don't need to. Like I can stay within a 68 to 72 degree window in that room fairly easily, even when it's like 90 degrees outside or 100 degrees outside. I haven't tried this in that extreme of a temperature. I think when I did this, I think that day I brewed it, it was like 80 degrees outside, but
it's a very warm October day when you brewed, or end of September.
End of September. Yeah. Think of it, whatever it was. It was not that long ago. But yeah, it just worked out perfectly. So I did this last year. Oh, the door's been opened and Aggie's been let in.
Don't mind the cat in the back. That's my niece Aggie.
So last year when I did this, I was trying to look to kind of a creative way to name it. Going to name it after my son. So I ended up calling it Mein Kind. It's an Oktoberfest. So Mein Kind means my child or my son. And I kind of stuck with it. So
I love it, man. And I love that the Aggie's there in the background. I do.
I know, right?
It's a good sound effect. Yeah, man. Now, was there anything that you did different this time around with this beer? Because the alcohol level is a little bit, the ABV is a little higher, right?
A little bit. Yeah. And so last year, I think, I don't know if I want to call it a happy accident, but it was an accident. When I was ordering the ingredients, I did it from Gnome Brew, like I always do. So I was putting it in, they have a nice recipe builder, so I can build the recipe and do what I need to do. I was doing it from Beersmith and I screwed up the calculation between like pounds and ounces or whatever.
Everyone's done it.
It was literally like a small, like kind of snafu. Really, Kat? Editor's note.
Not at all. I'm not editing any of that.
Anyway, she's like staring up at me like, you're not gonna here. All right, hold on.
Aggie is the sweet. Oh, there she is.
Okay, so
now you can hold on to her.
Well, she'll stop crying then. So I had screwed up the calculation. I think a little less on what I was supposed to be with like, with the grain. So when I went to go redo it, I was like, you know what? It worked well last year. So let's do the same thing. So I did the same thing or did that same yeast. And then when I was brewing it, I had my brew assistant, Sebastian.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for helping out.
Yeah, he was helping me put the stuff into the cooler before, like we were getting ready to do the mash. And a hole split in the bag in a different spot. And while he was pouring, I looked, I'm like, there's grain spilling out. So a bunch spilled out. So I went in and I took the top layer off that grain and I threw it in. And I was like, all right, I lost a little bit. So my makeup for that was at the beginning of the boil, a pound of table sugar goes in. So I threw in like a little less than an extra quarter of a pound and kind of made up for it with that. But I do feel like it actually sweetened it a little bit more, but not to its detriment. Like I feel like it's a pleasant sweetness to me.
Well, and one thing I'll point out is something that you mentioned, I think to Clark and I, and maybe I brought it up when we recorded the pumpkin beer episode. You said when you moved it into you're chilling it, or I don't know if you already kegged it or whatever, it had started fermenting again. You saw some activity. So I think there's a possibility that your beer, you were okay with the gravity as far as what may have got lost from the grains, and you added that sugar to it, but it didn't fully ferment out. So you did get the higher alcohol, but it didn't finish fully fermenting. Excuse me, I'm burping up. I did it before we recorded this. Sorry, everybody. Pizza from Easy Street. Go ahead and order from them if you're in Chicago. They're great. I think that's where some of that residual sweetness comes from, which is not a bad thing. It is a sweeter version of an Oktoberfest that I'm used to, but I really like it. It's caramely, it's what hops did you use in this? Do you have that in front of you? I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I know you're holding Aggie. So
it's literally just 2 hops and an ounce of each, Hirschbacher and Tettnang.
Yeah, it's not. You get a nice bitterness, a little floral bitterness to it, but there is that nice sweetness. So it's kind of nice because I remember the last one also being kind of sweet, but not as sweet.
Yeah.
And I remember being very easy drinking, which was kind of dangerous because I did drink that pretty much that whole growler to myself that night. It was a Thursday. It was fine. But now it's something like this. I'll have one like this, the flip top that you gave me, which I think is a full pint, is good. I'm good. I'm good on that. And it's nice. Like, I almost feel like the sweetness kind of helps me prevent myself from wanting to drink more than 2 of these at a time.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is good. I do like that. I don't find that as a to be a negative of the beer, but that sweetness it's nice. It's a nice, touch to this year's version of this beer, which I really like, man.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to continue to keep this as like my standard go-to like Oktoberfest recipes. So
sorry, I'm totally laughing at Aggie looking up at you. That was hilarious. She looked up like, "Oh, what are you saying? What's going
on?" But yeah, and then in years to come, when your Halloween party returns, you can definitely.
Absolutely.
I would be down to brew like a double batch of this and like put 5 gallons at your place. And
well, we normally also do our some type of candy inspired or some type of sweet cereal, cereal beer, or something like that, like a stout or anything else we've done. The Frankenberry beer, where we actually did use Frankenberry in it, and it looked like brains before we let it ferment. It was really cool. And then we added fresh strawberries to it because we did, as we've said, when you brew with regular cereal, unless you're using so many, like, you have to use a shit ton of cereal, I think, to like just do an all cereal beer, I think, to get any real result.
Yeah, like that would be all your grain, like nothing else.
It just then it is kind of a gimmick, to brew with. It's nice. It's cool to say like, hey, there's a whole bunch of boxes of Frankenberry in this beer, and a whole bunch of boxes of Count Chocula in this beer. It is fun. Which we continue to do. I mean, the same thing we did with the cinnamon roll stout. We do think that's Into the Void, adding those cinnamon rolls to it did add sugars to it, and same thing with these beers. It did add sugars, but we didn't get a lot of the flavors, so we then take the flavors that we wanted and add those,
subsidize it. Yeah,
exactly. Cocoa powder or strawberries or vanilla beans and ground cinnamon and cinnamon sticks. So
and that's that's a good point, because I'm curious, like, how many breweries that do these like adjunct stouts, like, they make this big spectacle of like, oh, we're throwing this in there, we're throwing that, and they're like, how often do you have to put in the back flavors? Like,
right,
back sweetening when you do stuff like that, when you're adding like baked goods or cereals or whatever, like the sweetness is not the problem. Like, you're getting that, but it's like the flavor profile that you're looking for. Like, how often are they adding in vanilla and coconut and like all this other stuff? Like, because so many breweries like, make a huge show of like everything they do. So when I have in mind, I don't want to name it, I'd like to have them on the show. But then I look at like Pipeworks, like, when they've always done their beers, even if they were like adjuncts or whatever, like, you don't see pictures on Facebook of them like mashing in and doing all of this stuff. And it's like, they just do it. It comes out the way it is. And it's,
well, and this in that same breath, Clint from Lake Effect, when they do the collaboration beer with Fanny's, they're adding in whole sheet cakes. And I don't know if he adds any other chocolate. And if he doesn't add any other chocolate, and it's just the grain bill and those chocolate cakes, well, they fucking nail it, because it tastes like a chocolate cake.
Well, and that too, like, so that's one in particular. Like, there's no icing, there's nothing else. It's literally just sheets of cake. A sheet cake. It's flour and butter and cocoa,
sugar
and butter. And,
oh no,
butter.
Don't drink that beer.
I was saying butter and sugar in the same
word. There are no boogers in that beer. There's no boogers.
That is. Or maybe there is. Give them all to us, because it's a pretty good beer.
Like,
it's literally, it's a plain sheet cake is so basic. When you add, like we did the cinnamon roll stouts with the icing and everything, the only thing we're really going to grab from that is more of the sugar, especially in the mash. So it's like,
and then maybe, because once you boil, and it boils for an hour, and I think maybe we might have to have boiled a little bit longer than an hour. You're going to lose some of that stuff to that boil. So you kind of miss out on that, but it is fun. to have that. So yeah, so for hopefully for next Halloween, we'll have a different episode here, where we revisit this beer, of course, and then me, you and Clark, or whoever the hell wants to be a part of it. Who knows what's going to happen in here? I'd like to get back to doing those candy inspired stouts. I mean, we did. God, the last Halloween party we did the Almond Joys. The Almond Joy beer, which we used coconut that was soaked in rum or vodka, I don't remember, but that went in there, and I added just a little touch of, I think, coconut. No, did I add coconut extract to it? I don't think so. No, we had cocoa powder and just the coconut extract that we did, and I added the coconut in like a hot bag, a little muslin bag, letting sit in there as well, so it didn't taste like suntan lotion. And that beer was a big hit at that Halloween party, by the way.
We should do a beer. We do a stout, like regular, like good heavy stout, imperial stout, whatever. And my first impression was like, let's put this in the mash. And then I'm like, no, like in the secondary when it's done, because it'll fucking dissolve, is candy canes. Like
Absolutely.
Do a stout.
Absolutely.
A heavy stout, and just in like once fermentation's done, throw in like a pound of candy canes.
As much as I want to revisit the Into the Void cinnamon roll stout, I kind of want to, because this is around the time we brewed Into the Void last year, around this time or close to
a couple weeks.
We're a couple weeks away.
About mid-November.
Yeah, mid-November. I think we can. I think maybe this year Into the Void is just a candy cane version of it. Let's get peppermint in there, man. Let's see what happens when we throw in a bunch of candy canes and hope for the best. I'm cool with that.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I think that'd be great. This is why I wish we could share our home brews with everybody, so people could understand what it is that we do, because Into the Void was the best beer we've ever done. And Brandon, every beer that you have done on your system the past like 2 years have just kind of been knocked out of the park. So I feel very grateful that you're willing to constantly give me free beer. As a home brewer, it's funny.
Somebody's got to drink it.
Well, it's funny because as a home brewer, I'm always like, hey, drink my beer. I still haven't even gone through getting through all my issues, but I think I'm gonna brew soon. And before the year is over, we're going to revisit me just doing some sort of basic beer to make sure that I still know what I'm doing. But when you make beer, you always want to give it to your friends. And most of the time, depending on if you tell if your friends are going to give you honest feedback, you don't know. For example, I made a beer that I wasn't happy with and brought it to a graduation party. And someone had off the cuff didn't know that I had brewed it and said, well, this is the only beer that's left, I guess that's okay. And I was like, hey man, that's my beer. And he's like, oh shit, man, that's not what I meant. And I go, nope, don't do that. I agree with you. I did not like the way it turned out. He's like, yeah, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's fine, but it's not good. It's not good. I don't like, there's something about it I don't like. I will say though, that the host of the party has since contacted me and has asked me to make that beer again. And I had to tell her, I'm like, I'll do my best, but the actual recipe itself probably won't taste quite like what you have, but I think it'll be better. So
what beer was it?
It was, I sat by the ocean, except I used a Kvike yeast for it. And
that's right.
The fastest turnaround I did with it. And there was just this weird, I'm getting this weird watered down plastic flavor from beers that I had brewed. And I did a seltzer that didn't turn out great. And I did 2 pale ales that tasted oxidized. And again, if you listen to the show, I'm probably repeating myself, but the only common factor has been using Kvike yeast, but I've never heard of anybody having those issues with Kvike yeast. So I have to kind of reevaluate.
Where's the Kvike yeast from? I think I know, but
it is from 2 different places.
Okay.
And both.
Oh, so that's interesting.
Well, the brew shops I got it from, but the Kvike yeast is from Omega. Sorry,
okay.
Yeah. And the packs were fresh.
Yeah.
They weren't old packs or anything.
That sounds like an inspiration for like an episode to be like, hey, look, we're not nailing you for anything, because people have used Omega yeast without problem forever.
Absolutely.
But like just to chat with them and be like, what do you think may have caught, like, did I do something wrong? Am I not should I are you supposed to do a starter? But like with wet packs, like most people don't, I don't know. It just seems like There's
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the thing about Kveik yeast. I mean, is that, and especially with Omega, you don't have to do starters because there's like so many yeast cells in there. They don't have to. I think
billions and billions.
I think it's an operator error. I do think maybe some of my stuff needs to get maybe better cleaned. But I have always said that I'm kind of I'm very loose. I brew like I cook, where brewing should be more like baking. Baking and brewing are science. It's like a science. Cooking is also like a science, but cooking is more forgiving. You can find ways to fix.
You can be more liberal. Yeah,
exactly. You can find ways to fix things on the fly. When it comes to brewing and baking, once you've done something, most of the time, like that's that's what you.
Other question.
Yes, sir.
You switched to Kveik yeast. Were you also using your brew or whatever, the mash and boil?
My mash and boil. Yeah, so the electric setup. So what I'm going, my plan is to, and I'm very adamant about the way I clean. I have a good cleaning process that I think for cleaning out my mash and boil. So I don't think it's a clean thing. I just think I'm either impatient or I'm doing something wrong as far as temperatures, something. So what I think I'm going to do is scale back my use of Kveik, go back to some of these recipes. I'm going to brew on my mash and boil, use what I've been using, my tried and true Saf Ale USO5, do a pale ale or do my Sap by the Ocean with the Saf Ale SO4 English yeast, and see what happens. Maybe I'm just not using Kveik yeast right, although I have had success with it. But whatever. I'll be brewing soon, and we'll figure it out.
But it's a good thing to kind of figure out and kind of test to see, and then especially like I'd be curious if you ever did like a side by side with your mash and boil and your, old setup, like your traditional setup, to see like do the same exact thing with everything the same, see what happens.
I like that same.
But that's the way to like weed out.
Yeah,
that's the way to weed out. Like,
for sure,
is it the yeast or the mash and boil? Which millions of people use a mash and boil, so I find it hard to believe that would be the issue.
Yeah, well, my thought is what I'm going to do first before I do a side by side is do a standard brew. I might do I Sat by the Ocean just because it's the lime goza, and I really do like having that on tap.
Because it's good.
Yeah, thank you. And just do what I normally do and see how that turns out. And if that turns out fine, I gotta say that it's not necessarily the yeast, but just maybe what I'm doing and how I'm treating it and how I'm treating the yeast. And if it does turn out weird and I get those same off flavors, I think it might be my buckets are kind of old, but they're not too old. But I think it might be time in general. Maybe I just replace my buckets and then give it a try, because I don't really want to waste another 5-gallon batch. So
no, agreed.
We'll see. What
I can give you a bucket.
Hey, thanks, man. I mean, I got a bucket that's new, but I've also done sours in some buckets, and that's the other thing too. I really run. Which I'm sure if any home brewer who listens just heard that, they're probably like, that's your fucking problem, man. But I've done so many beers in these buckets that, I got worried about sour, that I did beers afterwards that nothing's happened. But maybe the time has come now where I am facing some issues, and maybe I just need to give everything a deep clean and get some new, fermentation buckets and move on from there. So, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know, because like every time I scour the hell out of my buckets just to like super clean them, and then as soon as they're clean, I star sand them, and then like whatever, then they just sit there for a while. But
I mean, that's the thing. Like for so many years that Mike and I brewed, we did separate stuff that was like sour stuff or infected stuff, and kept it from the non-soured stuff, and we let stuff sit longer. And I don't know. So I mean, there's a lot of factors. I think I have a good idea of what I'm going to do and how I'm going to fix it, and I think I'm going to be okay. I think I'm going to be okay, guys.
Right.
We've been going on for a little bit. I really like this beer. I did get a note recently from somebody who told me they were really appreciative of the break music coming back. So what I think we're gonna do right now, it's the quick break music. There's no specific. It's the Fluid Minds break music because it gives a good quick break. So Brandon and I can collect ourselves because we do this.
Or go to the bathroom, whatever.
Yeah. I'm out of beer and I'm not in front of my refrigerator. So we got to go back to a beer. So let's take a quick break. Brandon, you'll pet Aggie. I'll refill my beer glass with something. You'll grab something, and we'll be right back.
All right. I'm gonna get this cat out of here. And we're back.
We are back. It's the three of us: me, Tony, Brandon, and Aggie. Aggie, welcome to the malting hour.
Meow.
Yeah,
Now she's quiet. Good.
Man. We haven't really shot the shit. I mean, we have shot the shit. We shot the shit about your beer, man, and home brewing and stuff. We did crack open another beer. Before we get to that, I did want to just kind of hit on something real quick. And I'm only going to talk about a couple of them, but as everybody knows, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you know, Goose Island's Bourbon County lineup was announced already, and media packages went out, which means we get a taste from those who are on the internet to what these beers actually taste like. And there are a handful of beers that we're obviously very interested in. The lineup being, you know, regular Bourbon County. There's the Bourbon County Cherrywood Stout. There's the Bourbon County Reserve 150 Stout. There's also the Bourbon County, another double barrel, but this is the double barrel toasted barrel, so I'm very excited about that one. The Bourbon County Reserve Blanton Stout, which is just a Blanton's barrel. Then the Bourbon County Classic Cola Stout that Brandon, I know you're very excited about. The Bourbon County 14, which is an homage and a throwback to the highly coveted and what most people consider the best proprietors, the Bourbon County Coconut with Cassia Bark. And then, of course, the Bourbon County Prop, which is Chicago only. And that one last year was, if I'm not mistaken, like an homage, not homage, but you know, a play on Spumoni.
I believe so.
This, yeah, for this one, it's another like dessert thing, and apparently it's supposed to be like very reminiscent of a classic strawberry ice cream bar. So it's like you know, shortcake, vanilla, and then strawberries type deal. And by the way, Emily, I hope I don't butcher her last name, Cosmal or Cosamal. I'm not sure. Emily Cosmal, who also created the concept for 2016 and 2020 props, is the one for this year as well. And she's the only person to have 3 props picked. So we're in full fledged barrel age season coming up with all these releases happening and currently happening. I'm very excited, Brandon. I know you're excited. Out of all of those, I think I already said it. That's the one you're most looking forward to. What of those are you really excited for?
No, so I will say like the double barrel I'm interested in, the 150, the Blanton's, like all of those, like I want to try. But the flavor profile that interests me the most is the cola one, just because I want to see how that plays, Yeah. Because I have a feeling like just the other ones will be successful and they'll be good. I mean, just based on the history of Bourbon County and like what we've tried, like anything that's barrel aged and done right, they're good. But the cola one just seems so interesting, and like I'm just so curious to try it. Like out of anything else, I want to try all of them. But yeah, that one's got my curiosity going.
Yeah, definitely. I think that one's going to be probably the most interesting. And I will say that some of the quick, parts that I'd watched or I've seen online or on Instagram yesterday being Thursday, October 21st. A lot of people were really surprised by how good Prop was this year. And some people had said that Prop was probably their favorite, not to take away from the other, variants that Goose had this year. Some people had their opinions on how to drink it, let it warm up. You'll get this. Some of them were very barreled forward. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of people had said that, the focus was of the barrels this year. So that's pretty exciting. Not that it's never been the focus, but there's not a lot of adjuncts except for that cola one really being the one that stands out. And of course, Prop, the rest of them, everything is focused on the wood. So that's a pretty cool way of bourbon, Goose Island doing their bourbon counties this year. Me, I would say that I am probably, other than the cola one and the double barrel, obviously, I am very excited to see how the Bourbon County 14 stout taste and if it's reminiscent of Prop 2014, because that really was a fantastic barrel aged beer. It was awesome. I mean, that was the Prop that, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been the first Prop. I could be wrong on that, but I just remember that one being the standing out because I'm pretty sure Mike and I got a hold of that and we loved it. Now, with that being said, Revolution is also in full swing with their barrel age series as well. They have already released the first 3 beers of their Deepwood series for 2021, that being Death Star or Death. I already said that. I'm going to say Death. Death Star, Cafe Death, and Death by Raspberries. I do have a Death Star and Death by Raspberries in my refrigerator. I have not tried them yet, and I have not tried Cafe Death either. But we've got a lot more coming up from them, which is Straight Jacket, which is their barley wine, Blackberry Finn, which is a barley wine aged with blackberries, and there's Vanilla Death, Rye Way to Heaven, Maple Jacket, Dark Mode, which is their milk stout.
Hey,
so that's pretty exciting. Grave Digger Billy's coming back. They're Scotch aged or Scotch ale aged in bourbon barrels. It's been 2, maybe 3 years since we've seen that. And then to round it all out is VSOR, which is their very special old rye. So it's a rye ale aged in rye bourbon barrels. And if you've had any of their VSO anything, all their very special old beers are awesome. In fact, they
are VSO awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was good. There. Yeah, that was good. So there's those are like the two big ones, going on that are coming. There's Fobab. Fobab's back. You can do it in person this year. There is Fobab to go, where it's like $60 for a random 6-pack, which we've talked about. Maybe we're gonna do. There's other barrel aged beers coming out. Brandon, you sent us a link today for Phase 3. They've got a barrel aged beer coming out.
Well, let's not forget about Brickstone. They're going to have their Black Friday release of Dark Secret,
which is kind of what I said. Something we get into later, because coming up in an episode or two, we're going to have Tommy from Brickstone back. This I mean, that's twice in 1 year. That's right. Wasn't it this year that he came on?
It was January.
This year? January. Yeah. So, we started the year with Tommy. We're going to end the year with Tommy. We got some fun beers to try with him and a lot of stuff to get into. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're always happy to have Tommy on. He's happy to come on. So we can't be mad about that.
Yeah.
And another welcome. And one other brewery, we're friends with Clint over at Lake Effect. He's got a coconut chocolate and chilies barrel aged beer coming out, and he's got a chocolate cake, which if you guys are familiar with those in the past, I'm not sure if the collaboration is still the same, but they are going to do a chocolate cake barrel aged stout again. And then another one that's really two more that are kind of intriguing. There's a coffee one, I believe. I don't know if this is combined with it, but there's chocolate, bacon, and maple. And as you know from our pumpkin beer episode, we got issues with bacon beers, and we'll see if Clint pulls it off. Maybe we can have Clint come on and talk about how
we're gonna have to. Mm-hmm. If it turns out well, then we definitely need to find out.
I think we just have him on regardless.
But no, that's true. That's true.
Put his feet to the fire and say, Clint,
what did you do?
This is how we feel. But yeah, so I just wanted to I'm sorry, there's a quick ramble. I just want to run that down, especially being in Chicago. It's an awesome time to live in Chicago because we are the home of barrel aged beers. Goose Island is what made barrel aged beers popular. And now, like, you can get barrel aged beers year round. Some breweries release their shit after the holidays, and it's kind of nice to come back around to it. I kind of feel like from November until about March is barrel age season, especially in Chicago. So it's kinda,
totally. Yeah.
It's kind of cool. And then Revolution even will do drops in the summer, which they have a lot of fun with because you get things like Honey Jacket and Strawberry Jacket and Supermassive Cafe Death and their mixed berry rye. And Goose Island is also, dropping random barrel aged stuff as well. As we know from March of last year, the Shamrock Shake, barrel aged stout, which is basically.
I hope that happens again because that was awesome.
I told somebody about that at work and they had no idea that it was a thing. And they were like, I need to get that. And I said, well, look around St. Patrick's Day because that's when we were able to grab it, but drank it in June.
Now I know, like, if I see it was like 2 months after, but
yeah,
I will grab multiples if that comes up again. If they just do it like they did, like the growler or the howler thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're gonna get. We'll grab a bunch because they'll age just fine.
Yeah, I mean, because a couple months.
I'll drink it flat.
Dude,
I'll drink it flat. So good. So good. That is on my list of the Maltese this year. That is up there very high. There's a little sneak peek. So we've got, we're coming close to the end of the year here.
We had a lot of good beer this year.
Yeah, and Brandon and I were talking, texting each other last night, and I had mentioned how many episodes we actually had left to record. It is not as many as I thought. It would make sense because we're here in October. So there's only like so many more episodes left. And season 5 of After the Final Pour is about to wrap up. So geez Louise, this year has been crazy. But Brandon, you gave me a shit ton of beer today when I came by the way. So thank you very much. With that being said, Clark and I are taking a quick trip up to Michigan tomorrow. So I plan on bringing you back something fun from there as well until we, all three of us head up there, which will be fun. I might even roll the camera a little bit while I head up that way. But Brandon, thank you for giving me all these beers. But some of those beers will be talked about in a few days. I'm just going to throw that there. But what are we drinking right now? It's not what I thought it was, by the way.
No, me either. So this is Dragon Milk's Solera by New Holland. So what Tony says, it's not what he thought it was. He's like, I think this is a sour beer. And we read the description, which says aged in a series of
sour beer.
Yeah, aged in a series of American oak fodders using a blending technique known as Solera. Nuanced flavors of caramel, toffee, and fig create an experience made to be savored. The legendary ale will continue to evolve with each pull from the fodders, becoming more complex over time. So I'm wondering if they have like a huge like barrel that they're doing this in and just pulling out of. Anyway, so all right, You get it. I get it. You're done. All right. You're done. So
She was excited
That's
about the photo.
it's a cat. So, anyways, what Tony thought he was, I think this is a sour, and I was like, oh god, I hope it's not. We opened it, and the scent I got off, or the aroma I got off originally, it was off-putting. I was like, oh god. I said it smelled like a fart, and then I put it into a glass.
I'm glad you said it.
I put it into a glass and let it sit for, I don't know, 30 seconds. And I took a sip, and I was like, it is not a sour. It is, well, actually, no, going back, when we poured it, we both said it looks kind of like a barley wine.
Yeah.
This does not look like dragon's milk. And then I took a sip, and I was like, it kind of is reminiscent of a barley wine.
Yeah.
To me, we haven't talked about this yet. So
no. And this is the first time I'm having it, first time you're having it. It kind of reminds me of an old ale.
Yes.
/ barley wine. It's kind of got that, like when I think of old ales, there's like a tea type of bitterness or flavor to it. That's the only thing I can ever relate it to, is like iced tea or hot tea. But there's a sweetness to this. It's very nice. Had I known that this is what it was, I don't know who put it in my head, or if I put it in my head myself, why I thought this was a sour. I should have really read up on it. I would have bought this a lot sooner. It's nice. I like it. I think it's very tasty. I think New Holland's Dragon Milk is a very underrated beer, just because it's not a thick and heavy barrel-aged stout, but it is a very drinkable, enjoyable, where you can get bourbon and stout, light-bodied. It's not very heavy. There's not a huge mouthfeel to it. Totally. And it's readily available. And what they've been doing with their reserves is the reserve series is that they've been doing like adjuncts, and there's been some for me that have been phenomenal and really tasty. And there's some I haven't liked, but I also don't like rum. So that's why I didn't really care for that one. Was it rum or brandy? I don't remember, but I didn't care for that one. But everything else that I've tried have been very good. So I should have really gone for the Solera. I feel like this was kind of overlooked because it's not a stout. And maybe I didn't hear so much about it. I don't know why we don't hear more about Dragon's Milk, to be honest. Like, Dragon's Milk is one of the most affordable barrel-aged beers that are out there, and you get barrel characteristics, you get that bourbon flavor, you get a nice, enjoyable stout, and I'm not really sure why people don't talk about it more. This one is very good. I saw in the description of the label it mentioned toffee, and I did get that. I do get that. There is that kind of toffee sweetness to it that's really nice. I really do enjoy this beer.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I agree. And what blew me away is because I got this as a birthday present, and I was not expecting it to be as, I don't know, thin, I guess I would say. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem. No, I know you're taking care of the cat. Yeah, I think that is kind of the thing that I get from the Dragon's Milk in general, is that there is like this thin body to it, and I think that people just
even like compared to Dragon's Milk, like this is thinner than Dragon's Milk to me.
Yeah,
and
sure.
like obviously
right.
It's a completely different color than Dragon's Milk, because Dragon's Milk has been like closer to black and dark. So whatever they did with this is awesome. Like, this is just...
I mean, I think that they're not, I don't think they're classify it as a stout, so I think that's why we're getting
no. Well, and I also think so, like, I think most of their the Dragon's Milk goes into like charred oak barrels, so that's where that dark color comes from. And if this is just going into American oak fodders, like, that's I'd have to do some research, but my assumption is that those are not charred, and they're just getting more of the wood characteristic and lightens up the color. So
absolutely, you're correct about it. They're not charred barrels. They're meant specifically for aging for wood characteristics. And I did look it up just now, and this is considered a strong ale, so we weren't wrong about being an old ale. I feel like old ales, We're not beer geniuses like Clark, but strong ales.
But what is Dragon's Milk Dragon's Milk in general? Like, what is a standard Dragon's Milk? Yeah,
it's okay.
Stout. So that's why we were dismayed.
Yeah,
or misled, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't want to say misled. It says on the bottle. It's
like Dragon's Milk is a milk stout.
Yep.
And so this is a strong ale, so it's very different. And there is a white stout that they do that I have not tried either, which I wish I want to get my hands on at some point, because I think white stouts are kind of fun because it gives off roasty character. Beer looks golden almost.
Yeah.
So it kind of plays tricks on you. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
But yeah, this is pretty cool, man. I do dig this. I don't know. I know this came out. It's a year-round beer, so that's cool. I didn't know it was a year-round beer. I thought it was just sitting on the shelves. So I'm looking it up right now. This is what it's like when Clark is not around.
So actually, if you look at the bottle, it says 8/14/20.
So it's a year old. This is a year old.
Thanks, Mike.
I do, yeah. I thanks
for grabbing something that you didn't drink out of your basement and giving it to me.
I do want to try.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. I want to try this fresh. And Brandon, we actually have seen foeders before when we went to Short Fuse, because Short Fuse has some foeders that I think they were getting ready to.
Oh yeah,
start using, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, you know what, here. I'm gonna see if I can do this. We're gonna do this on the fly. Here we go. Opening up the chat. Boom, there's the link for Dragon's Milk Solera, and then you can see a picture on their webpage of the foeder, and you'll totally recognize that as being something that Short Fuse has right now.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, so it's pretty rad. Yeah, this is cool, man. This is good. Thank you for sharing this with me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Mike, for contributing something to the show. That'll be something we do next year. Can Mike brew it? Something we've been talking about. We talked about and then didn't follow through with it. But we need to.
We'll do it one of these days.
I mean, we do. We got a lot coming up here for the end of the year. I mean, there's just. I mean, alone we've got the Christmas episode, one we look forward to for Christmas beers, almost as much as the pumpkin beers. And then we've got the multis happen right at the end of the year, so that takes care of two there. We got Tommy from Brickstone coming on, and we threw out some other ideas of some things that we want to do that I won't get into because don't want to sound like a liar. But we got some previous guests who we've reached out to or have been talking to, might be coming back. Maybe they were on this year. Maybe they were on last year. Maybe it's their third time on the show or fourth time on the show.
Time on the show. Who knows?
Maybe she'll join us again. What? Spoiler alert. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, but I'm really happy with the two beers we had tonight, man. It was nice talking with you. You got anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna kind of,
because I'm not trying to end. I'm definitely not trying to end the show.
The only thing I was gonna shoot past you was
trying to drink beer.
So tomorrow from Gnome Brew, I got to pick up. I ordered 5 gallons of cider. So I got cider coming in. They have a connection with a farm in Michigan. And they're getting pressed cider that's being freshly pressed and then delivered. It's supposed to come in at like 2:00 or 3:00 tomorrow. And I ordered 5 gallons of it. So I dropped off my sanitized container and lid, and they're going to fill it up with 5 gallons. And so I'm going to go pick that up tomorrow. So my thing is, like, I've been looking all over the place. So this is unpasteurized cider.
Real quick, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How much did 5 gallons of that cost?
It was like $6.99 a gallon. So
that's
math.
Pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
honestly, a good deal.
That's a really good deal. And I only bring that up because Mike and I were talking about it. And he was like, "What? That can't be right." And I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure." Because I was at the apple orchard the day you sent me that text.
Yeah.
because Mike and I were talking about maybe doing a cider, but when you get apples like that, it takes a lot of apples to get a gallon of juice, and it was going to cost us a good amount of money to because he's got an apple press that he wants to use. And I said, man, let's get some fucking crab apples and make some juice. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so so I got 5 gallons of cider. So I guess my whole thing now is just figure out what I'm going to do with it. And, everything I'm reading online. So I've never done unpasteurized. So everything I'm reading online, it's like, oh, you're fine. Just pitch some yeast and be done with it. And I was like, I don't want to do that, because there's this other world that's like, you should pitch some Camden tablets in it and just let it sit with the Camden tablets for like 24 to 48 hours and then do whatever you want with it. So I think I'm now in the camp. I've got Camden tablets already. So I think I'm going to do that.
I have some if you don't have
them. No, I've got a whole bottle of it. Do that. I think I'm going to do that for 24, 48 hours. And then I was like, my original thought was like, I'm going to put in brown sugar. And then I've been reading so many things that it's like, it gives it an off flavor, or like it tastes too much like molasses. I was like, And then the things that I had been reading was like, you need to cook the brown sugar in the apple cider. I was like, well, I don't want to do that either. Like, I don't know. So I'm kind of confused of what I'm going to do. I just know so far I'm at the Camden tablets, and I know I'm going to do some cinnamon sticks in bourbon. Ooh, and some allspice in bourbon, and that's going to go in the secondary. So I may just do that. Like,
man, it's your first time doing it. Go simple. Go with stuff that you know how to do.
Well, it's not my first cider. The first
maybe,
like
but it's your first time, first time getting real, apple, live juice, real juice. Sorry, the Solera is starting to kick in. It's 10%, guys.
So I think that's probably my route, is just to just go. Do the Camden tablets, let that sit, then pitch the yeast. And I've been looking at some cider yeast, so I think I'm going to do that.
That's exciting, man. It'll be nice, especially, whenever you decide to do it, as we get to the.
Well, I'm getting it tomorrow, and I have to I'm going to do the Camden tomorrow.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're getting into. this whole weekend is going to be in the 50s here in Chicago.
Yeah, so my whole hope was originally I wanted to do an apple pie cider. Mm-hmm. So that's the cinnamon and the allspice that I want to do in the secondary. So,
yeah, that's what I was saying. We're getting to the cold months of Chicago this time of year around, the world in general, not the world, but, the United States, the colder months with the holidays and stuff. So that'll be nice to do. You can have a nice, winter drink. That might be something I'm considering as well, is doing some type of winter warmer this year. I've always talked about wanting to do it. In fact, I came up with this recipe in honor of my grandmother. I wanted to call it I don't know. And the funny thing is that I don't know if my grandmother ever made oatmeal raisin cookies. I'm sure she did at some point, but it's not a memory that I have. She always made fried Italian cookies that were fucking, God, what were they called? I want to call them rosettes or rosettas. I think that's what they're called. Those were the cookies that she made for me. But I want to make a old ale or barley wine or a brown ale that is reminiscent of an oatmeal raisin cookie. So I might try to do that for my winter warmer this year. Nice. I do want to have something like that on tap. Something that, just kind of sits on tap for all winter. When people come by and, or on the weekend at night, I want to have, a beer that's maybe closer to the 7 or 8%. That's a little, sweeter, maybe a little heavier, warms you up. Something to have around the fire before I can't have a fire anymore because we have 12 feet of snow, because that's what happens in Chicago now.
True.
But man, we've got so much planned. With Bourbon County being released, back to that real quick. We'll see what we end up with. We've Clark has mentioned that he's got a bunch of barrel aged beers he wants to get through. We've got space for a mystery beer maybe episode coming up. I have on social media, I have called out and challenged Hip Hop's Daniel to a mystery beer challenge, because he said Clark and I basically suck at tasting beer. He wasn't wrong. He's not wrong at that. but I'm calling him out and we're challenging him. So that's something that's coming up. I am really looking forward to our Christmas episode. We're maybe thinking about doing something different. We're gonna drink Christmas beers regardless, but I kind of want to have some. I want to have.
We might be at the North Pole.
We might. Santa might be on the show. No, I kind of want to include, like we did the first time, have a guest or two on.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see Jeff again this year. I doubt it. Sorry, Jeff. We'll have Jeff present all the multi winners.
There you go.
Oh man, it's been a fun year this year, and man, we're about to get in the thick of the type of beers we really enjoy when it comes to like barrel aged beers and just like these winter type of beers. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great, man. I'm sorry, my mom is also texting me right now, and the texts are popping up on my screen.
Ooh.
And I have no idea what she's talking about. So I apologize if I sounded distracted because I read it as I was talking. It is a good time of year. I'm looking forward. Like this is my favorite time of year. We're getting to the stout season, and as you guys out season ends, there's a bit of dry January and sour beers then follow from my brewing likings. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I am looking. This is my favorite time of year. Villain beer right now. His hair is thick in a ponytail. He's got a beard and he's petting a cat. What an episode! What an episode this has become. Man, I think that's all I got for tonight. You got anything else you want to talk about, or
no? I think I pretty much think we ran the gamut and filled in what we wanted to fill in. So
yeah, this is a filler episode, guys. You know how there's shows where there's a filler episode. This is it. No, I'm just joking.
Not necessarily a filler episode. It's an episode where we didn't come in with like an exclusive topic, and we just ran with it, and it worked.
I love it.
I think so.
Oh, cool. Now I can hear my cat bellowing.
So can I.
You can. Oh, good. I hope everybody else can hear. That's her telling. Because my wife is probably upstairs on the second floor. I'm in the basement. That's our cat Spooky saying, "Assholes, you either need to be together so that all three of us are together, or someone please come feed me some food right now."
Yep.
See if we can hear it.
Meow, meow, meow.
Can you hear it now? Nope, she's not doing it right now. A little bit. All right, Brandon, I love you, man.
Love you too, bud.
And thank you, everybody, for continually listening to the show. We appreciate it. If you know somebody who likes the show, pass it on to them, And if you're not following us on any social medias, it's real easy. It's the Malting Hour, the Malting Hour. Everywhere. That's it. And the bumper at the end of the episode tells you how to follow all of us. But, why do you want to follow us individually? We're not that cool. Except for Aggie. All right, bye.
Bye.
This has been The Malting Hour. Be sure to follow us on all social media by searching The Malting Hour and at themaltinghour.com. You can also follow us on social media platforms individually. Brandon can be found on Instagram as BMDub81, on Twitter, BDub81, on Untapped, BDub Drinks Beer. Tony can be found on Instagram and Untapped under Asa Phelps Chicago. On Twitter, The Asa Phelps Chicago. Clark can be found as Clarkowski on all three. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate the show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Until next time, cheers from all of us at The Malting Hour.